History is about to repeat itself, and not in a good way for the U.S. economy. Cathy Wood recently compared 2023 to the early 1900s. A lot of innovation, but some similar issues as well. Let's take a listen.
We were in the middle of the massive, most massive innovation the history of the world had seen. Telephone, electricity, and automobile, all at the same time. But we had World War I and we had the Spanish flu. Sound familiar? Now, that was much worse than what we've gone through. We've gone through nothing like that. But there were massive supply chain problems back then. And inflation peaked at 24%, right? In June of 1920. And by June of 1921, it was minus 15%. So I think that our 8 to 10% inflation, which is where it was at the peak, is going to turn around, and we're going to see some very big surprises on the inflation front. And you know who agrees with us? The bond market. Look at what the bond market is doing now. The long bond yield, 380, 75% inverted. That's telling us that the bond market is saying recession and or big surprises on the low side of inflation expectations.
Here are some of the issues the early 1900s were up against. Many will sound very familiar. World War I. World War I, often termed the Great War, spanned from 1914 to 1918. It was a conflict that drew in major powers from across the globe, resulting in the mobilization of more than 70 million military personnel. The war led to profound shifts in political power, with empires falling and new nations emerging. The economic implications were equally staggering. Europe, at the center of the conflict, saw its economies devastated. Trade routes were disrupted, industries were decimated, and national debts soared. The societal impact was profound too. The war brought about significant changes in gender roles, as women took on roles traditionally held by men, leading to a shift in societal perceptions. Additionally, the war led to a massive loss of life, creating a generational gap that would have lasting cultural implications. The pandemic of 1918. As the world was grappling with the aftermath of the war, it was hit by another crisis, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. This influenza outbreak remains one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, infecting 1/3 of the world's population and resulting in the deaths of an estimated 50 million people. The pandemic's rapid spread was facilitated by the movement of troops and refugees during the war. Cities across the globe were affected, with many implementing quarantines, shutting down public spaces, and promoting the use of masks, measures eerily familiar to our more recent history. Economically, the pandemic made the challenges posed by the war even worse. Many businesses, already struggling in the war's aftermath, faced labor shortages due to illness and death. However, the economic downturn was short-lived. By 1920, a combination of factors, including pent-up demand and the beginning of the Roaring Twenties, led to a quick economic recovery. In both these events, the war and the pandemic, we see an initial downturn followed by remarkable resilience and transformation. The human spirit, it seems, has an innate ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome. Innovation and growth. As the dust settled from the war and the pandemic, the 1920s emerged as a decade of unparalleled growth and innovation. The scars of the previous decade had not only healed but had given way to a period of prosperity and cultural renaissance that few could have predicted. The rise of industries. The early 20th century saw the birth and rapid expansion of industries that would define the century. The automobile industry took center stage, with the likes of Ford revolutionizing production through assembly lines. This not only made cars more affordable for the average American, but also transformed urban landscapes and spurred the growth of subsidiary industries like oil and rubber.
Rocky Point, Long Island, 1933. Guglielmo Marconi and David Sarnoff visit the birthplace of broadcasting. Radio's first castle was this rustic shack. In 1921, radio fans were all earphones listening to a pioneer station, WHN. Crystal Set explorers hear such performers as Miriam Batista, child movie star.
The radio became a household staple, connecting people like never before. It was the era of the first commercial radio stations, and families would gather around the radios to listen to news, music, and entertainment broadcasts. This newfound connectivity played a pivotal role in shaping public opinion and culture. Aviation also took a significant leap. What started with the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903 had, by the 1920s, evolved into commercial aviation, with airlines offering passenger flights, marking the beginning of a new age of global connectivity. The Roaring Twenties. The economic boom of the 1920s, often referred to as the Roaring Twenties, saw significant growth, urbanization, and an increase in consumer spending. The stock market saw unprecedented highs, and cities witnessed a surge in construction, with skyscrapers altering the skylines. Unfortunately, this would only last so long before the Great Depression. Today's world, echoes of the past. 100 years later, and it's hard to ignore the similarities between then and now. Today we find ourselves in a new global conflicts, a devastating pandemic, and technological revolutions that promise to redefine our future. Modern warfare. The war in Ukraine has played a huge role in sky-high inflation and the subsequently high interest rates in the U.S. All of this has weighed heavily on the U.S. economy. Across the globe, this war has also affected the energy markets, with Europe scrambling to supply its energy demand and other parts of the world seeing gas prices soar. It seems like every week we hear more news about U.S. debt increasing, and aid in the form of billions going to Ukraine and the Middle East. We're not passing judgment on that here, but we look at everything through a financial lens, and all this debt and war has economic implications. Not to mention, many believe these two wars have the capability of sparking World War III. The pandemic. In what feels like a cruel twist of fate, the world found itself grappling with a pandemic reminiscent of the Spanish flu.
Pandemic is a word that, if misused, can cause unreasonable fear or unjustified acceptance that the fight is over, leading to unnecessary suffering and death.
COVID, which emerged in late 2019, quickly spread globally, bringing nations to a standstill. Economies shuttered as lockdowns were imposed. International travel came to a halt, and global supply chains were disrupted. The economic implications were immediate and severe. The World Bank estimated a 4.3% contraction of the global GDP in 2020.
There are new COVID-19 cases in North Texas,
and it is spreading fast.
Declaring a state disaster.
Fort Worth Mayor Betsy Price is expected to announce a stay-at-home order.
Dallas County will move to a safer-at-home order.
Millions lost their jobs, businesses closed down, and stock markets plummeted. Governments worldwide rolled out stimulus packages to support their sinking economies. The U.S. alone approved relief packages worth trillions of dollars, adding to its national debt. But much like the aftermath of the Spanish flu, there are glimmers of hope. COVID has moved into an endemic stage with vaccines and lower rates, and economies are showing signs of recovery. Innovations in telecommuting, e-commerce, and digital communication have not only helped businesses stay afloat, but have also paved the way for a potential future of work. Technological advancements. Amid global challenges, the 21st century has also been marked by unprecedented technological advancements that promise to redefine our world, much like the innovations of the early 1900s. Cryptocurrencies and Web3. At the forefront of this technological revolution, it is the emergence of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a myriad of other digital currencies are not just new forms of money. They represent a fundamental shift in how we think about finance. Decentralized, transparent, and operating outside the traditional banking system, cryptocurrencies offer a promise of financial sovereignty and democratization. Closely linked to the crypto movement is the concept of Web3. This represents the next evolution of the internet, moving away from centralized platforms to a decentralized ecosystem, where users have control over their data, identities, and transactions. Web3 technologies, powered by blockchain, have the potential to disrupt industries from social media to supply chain management. Blockchain technology alone, in fact, could prove a powerful disruptor even without cryptocurrencies or Web3. Artificial intelligence. Another game changer is the rapid advancement in artificial intelligence. From healthcare to finance, artificial intelligence is being employed to solve complex problems, automate tasks, and even create art. Its potential to drive efficiency, reduce costs, and open up new avenues for innovation is immense. However, with its rise also come ethical considerations and the need for regulations to ensure its responsible use. The economic potential. These technologies, while still in their infancy, have the potential to reshape economies. Cryptocurrencies and Web3 can democratize finance, reduce transaction costs, and bring financial services to underserved populations. AI can drive productivity, lead to new business models, and even create entirely new industries. Just as the innovations of the early 1900s laid the foundation for a century of growth, today's advancements promise to set the stage for prosperity and societal transformation. Predicting the future, recession or boom. As we draw parallels between the early 1900s and today, it's essential to consider what these patterns might indicate for our future. Will we experience the next roaring 20s, marked by prosperity and cultural renaissance? Or are we on the brink of a significant economic downturn? The bond market's indications. The bond market, often seen as a reliable economic barometer, has been sending some concerning signals. Historically, certain patterns in the bond market, such as an inverted yield curve, have been precursors to recessions. In recent times, bond yields have been historically low, suggesting that investors are anticipating slower economic growth or even a potential downturn. Cathy Wood has shared her insights on this matter.
We're going to see some very big surprises on the inflation front. And you know who agrees with us? The bond market. Look at what the bond market is doing now. The long bond yield, 380, 75% inverted. That's telling us that the bond market is saying recession and or big surprises on the low side of inflation expectations. And it's probably both.
She points to the possibility of deflation, driven by technological innovations that reduce costs and increase productivity. While deflation might sound positive on the surface, it can be problematic. When prices drop, consumers and businesses may delay purchases and investments, anticipating further price declines. This can lead to reduced economic activity and, in extreme cases, a deflationary spiral. Furthermore, Wood suggests that the bond market indicates a potential recession on the horizon. Recessions, while challenging, are a natural part of economic cycles. They can correct imbalances, allow for the restructuring of industries, and set the stage for future growth. Historical patterns and predictions. Historically, bond markets have been eerily accurate in predicting economic downturns. For instance, before the 2008 financial crisis, the bond market showed signs of distress, with credit markets tightening and yield curves flattening. Similarly, in the lead-up to previous recessions, bond market movements have often been early warning signs. However, it's essential to remember that while history can provide valuable lessons, it doesn't dictate the future. The global economy is influenced by a myriad of factors, from geopolitical events to technological breakthroughs. Moreover, central banks and governments have become more proactive in their economic interventions, which can influence outcomes. So, are there signs of potential economic challenges ahead? There's also reason for optimism. The same technological innovations that are driving deflationary pressures also have the potential to spur a new era of growth and prosperity. As Cathy Wood suggests, we might experience both a recession and a subsequent boom, fueled by technological advancements and a resolution of current supply chain issues. Innovation-driven boom. As we navigate the complexities of our modern world, there's a silver lining on the horizon, driven by the very innovations that are reshaping our societies. One of the significant challenges the global economy has faced recently is supply chain disruptions. From semiconductor shortages affecting the auto industry to shipping delays impacting retail, these issues have had a ripple effect. However, as these supply chain issues get resolved, we could witness a surge in economic activity. The pent-up demand, combined with the efficiencies brought about by technological advancements, has the potential to spur significant growth. Just as the early 1900s saw an economic boom driven by innovations like automobiles and radio, today's technologies, including cryptocurrencies, Web3, and artificial intelligence, could be the catalyst for a new era of prosperity. This could very well be our version of the Roaring '20s, where technological advancements not only drive economic growth, but also bring about cultural and societal shifts. Let's just hope history stops repeating itself by about 2029. Balancing the scales. While the signs pointing to a potential recession are evident, it's crucial to remember that economic cycles are just that, cycles. History has shown us that downturns are often followed by periods of robust growth. Given the current technological landscape and the potential for innovation-driven growth, we might very well experience a brief recession, followed by a significant economic boom. The key will be to harness the potential of today's innovations while learning from past mistakes. It seems the more things change, the more they stay the same. History, as they say, often rhymes. Here we are 100 years later dealing with similar issues we saw in the early 1900s. War, pandemics, subsequent supply chain issues, and hopefully, a nice long period of growth and prosperity.